April 1940, Moradabad. A new uniform, a new city, a new start. On April 7, 1940, Rameshwarnath Kao reported to the Police Training College in Moradabad. The mess was a relic of World War I. Old corridors, peeling walls, heavy silence. He was allotted a large room, and beside him stood his Gurkha attendant Jeep Bahadur, quiet, loyal, dependable. But the very first shock came fast. Kao's first encounter with the British police officers was far from cordial. He had grown up on English literature of Milton, Shelley, Shakespeare, so he expected British officers to be like the characters of these novels. Instead, he walked into a mess hall where his British seniors sneered at the food, mocked the music, and taunted him for reading the wrong newspaper.
Leaving the launch together with other members.
If you want to know anything about the national movement, ask Kao.
Because he reads the Hindustan Times.
That's when Kao realized he is not just being trained, he is being watched. In those days, the Hindustan Times was seen as close to the freedom movement. Officers were expected to read only the Statesman or the Pioneer. The British officers he had idolized in books were in flesh and bone, coarse, foul-mouthed, and arrogantly sure of their place. Then came the irony. Kao was a lifelong teetotaler and he was put in charge of the liquor cellar. For 6 months he counted every peg of whiskey and rum without touching a drop. But by the end, he knew more about liquor and wine than he ever wanted. And then there was the long mess nights. Senior army and police officers dropped into the mess, and as the junior-most probationers, Kao and his batchmates could not leave until the last guest left, often close to 3 a.m. And by 5 a.m., they were back on parade. It was an exhausting and humiliating test of stamina which Kao passed, all the while not drinking a single drop of liquor. To him, these nights weren't merriment. They were training in patience, discipline, and control. Riding was another requirement, and Kao embraced it like fish to water. Within a week of his arrival, he bought a horse from a fellow trainee. For 7 years, he rode regularly, becoming a skilled horseman. Between all the training and rigor, sometimes there was a glamour. Every now and then, the Nawab of Rampur invited the probationers 80 miles away into a world of lavish dinners and endless hospitality, and even private screening of Hollywood films. But beneath the polish, the system had a purpose: to mold Indian recruits into what Kao later called brown snobs, men trained to mimic British manners and at times even feel contempt for their own countrymen. For R&AW, Moradabad wasn't just training, it was an initiation. The bullet boy, once mocked as Kao the Cow, was becoming something else. A man who could take pressure without reacting. 7 years, that's how long he served across the dusty districts of United Provinces. Files, parades, law and order, the daily grind of policing under the Raj. And then, in 1947, the tricolour rose over Delhi, and Kao was called into a world he never imagined: the Intelligence Bureau. The IB had been born under the British to watch Indians, track freedom fighters, and protect the Raj. But after 1947, it had to be reshaped. Now its mission was different: guard an independent India, watch its borders, and protect its leaders. And this is where Cow made history. In a department long dominated by British officers and later a small circle of insiders, accounts note that Cow became the first Hindu officer to enter the IB. He didn't stand out by talking, he stood out by being quiet, observant, and meticulous. He was noticed quickly. Under B.N. Malik, one of the longest serving IB chiefs, Cow was handed one of the most delicate assignments in the system: the personal security of Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. And this assignment put him through a ruthless test, because here even a single mistake was one too many. Cow was entrusted to be the deputy director of IB from 1950 to 1964, during which time he was an integral part of setting up the security apparatus for India, including the security arrangements for the foreign dignitaries. During one such visit of a foreign dignitary, Queen Elizabeth II, R&Cow's dedication and presence of mind came forth to the world. During Queen Elizabeth II's first visit to India in 1961, a crowd surged. The security ring tightened. Then something flew toward the Queen. In a heartbeat, Cow moved. He caught it midair. A bouquet, not a bomb. And in good humor, she quipped, "Good cricket." For the crowd, it was a moment. For Cow, it was a reminder. Vigilance isn't a mood, it is a habit. And it's the difference between life and death. Soon, he was placed on assignments where one mistake didn't cost a career, it could cost lives. And then came a name he would never forget: Kashmir Princess.